Check 1, 2. Here we are, my friends. I'm the Zim. This is the Zim video. This is Our Professor's podcast. And we have a new angle for the camera just because I wanted to show off the mural in the background. So I moved the camera to the other side of my monitors just for now. I can't do it when I'm game streaming because it just doesn't work. It's blocking my... Yeah, anyways. But I can mess around. It'll probably be for the next 2 weeks anyway. We have about 2 more weeks. Let's see what's the date here. So next Friday, next Friday will be the last recording in Stolen Car Studio, at least this version of Stolen Car Studio. I don't know if I'm going to carry over the name to my new place, but basically in 2 Fridays from today is moving day. So I probably won't be recording a podcast on moving day. I definitely won't be. So we'll see if I might skip that podcast. Anyways, so there we are. Let me just catch everybody up that's new to the space. I'm the Zim, aka Splatdad, or I'm the Zim, the art professor. Splatdad is what I do. Splatoon streaming is what I do when I'm not being an artist. I'm teaching at Rochester Institute of Technology. Got my RIT cup. Oh, can't see RIT right there. RIT cup. Teaching at RIT next year. Again, 2 years in a row. Probably last year, but we'll see. This is what I'm thinking. I'm basically going to start the year off. I'm going to tell them right away that I'm just going to be here for another year, and then I'm going to move. Unless they make me an offer. Unless they make it worth my while. I'm not coming back for just whatever. If they value the Zim, they'll make it worth my while to stay. I know I'm worth it, but knowing the way, I don't know, my what I've learned up to this point, I haven't seen a space value quality yet, in the sense of let's make sure we retain them. Like the place, Northwest Missouri sure wasn't willing to make me an offer. They never said it. They were like, we want you to stay. We want you to stay. Well, show me the money. Anyways, let's go then. Anyways, so this year, RIT, last year, RIT, or this coming up year, I should say. And then 2 years ago, I was at Northwest Missouri. 3 years ago, I was at San Diego State University. And I got my graduate degree at San Diego State University, and I got my undergrad at the University of Washington, and all throughout there, living life, being creative, playing music, doing things. All right, we are here. We're recording this much earlier. It's 7:48 a.m. Normally, I don't get to the recording until much later. I woke up, kind of had one of those nights where I fell asleep at like somewhere shortly after 2 a.m. I know it was after 2. I woke up at like 4 out of a bad dream. You ever wake up? So this is what happens to me when I wake up out of a bad dream. So that it wasn't like nightmare, but it was like it was weird. When I wake up and the room is still kind of dark or whatever, and I look around, it's like I could see things in the shapes of things that are like, I just get creeped out. Like there's the rolls of paper that I have for things like the artwork behind me. It's still like a roll just standing up in my room. And when I looked at it, it looked like there was like a face on it and like an arm coming out of it. But it's like, and so I had to like get up and like what's going on? Anyways, my brain just tweaks out sometimes when I wake up out of like a less than nice dream. I don't remember what the dream was about. I just remember I was like, it was unsettling a little bit. But here we are. So feeling pretty good. Today is actually also yesterday, I should say, in a way. Yesterday, within the last 24 hours, is the official start of my summer break. So even though the school year has been out for however long, month and a half already, I haven't stopped since that. So I went, school's done. I was going hard on game streaming. I was going hard on getting my artwork started. Like, I was going full tilt up till yesterday, basically. And because I basically done the artwork, which we'll talk about later in the podcast. I'm basically done. I could feel it. That having to do something, that obligation of work or obligation of something is no longer there. It's like it has that same feeling of like when you decide to stop doing something. I don't know if you've ever had this feeling, but you're like, that weight sort of metaphysically gets lifted off of you. That's what it feels. I'm like, okay, all I got to do now is game stream and chill. And I can feel the difference. Like, I'm not thinking about when am I going to fit this in? How long is it going to take? Blah, blah, blah. So basically done. I'll show you. We'll talk way more about it later in the podcast. I'll just keep it on the same schedule as I normally do. But the way it'll work out, we start off everything with the YouTube journey. I got some political stuff, some stuff that has kind of happened in the world. A lot of it kind of politically oriented, as always. And then we'll talk about the artwork, and then we'll see if there's any life stuff to mention. I don't really have anything written down. So let's start with the YouTube. Okay, so YouTube status. On the screen, I have the numbers of what's where we're at. Currently right now, we're at 9,420. So that's a plus 126 from last week. So that's pretty good. And channel members, we are plus 6 from last week. We're at 119. Let's see what the number on the screen says. 121. So it went down from the number on the screen. But yeah, we're doing all right. So that's, what else is there to report about that? So within this all, I don't think I need these on the screen anymore, so we'll get rid of those. It's all right. We're currently right at this very moment within the last 48 hours, maybe 72. We're in another kind of sub count drought. And it's like doing the thing where it doesn't seem to go the direction we want as like it can sometimes. So it's just frustrating. I'm just like, oh, I woke up yesterday. So yesterday morning, I woke up with, in the middle of the night, I looked at my phone and it was like, we were at exactly where we're at right now, 9,420. And then yesterday morning, I woke up and we lost 12 subscribers. And I was like, God damn it. That's kind of a lot for the rate at which I go. So I was like, God darn it. And then so yesterday, luckily, we were able to call back out. One of the things I did during my game stream last night is I posted a little thing and said, we're not stopping the stream until we hit 100 or 9,420 or more than. We actually had one more. We made it, actually we had two more. We made it up to 9,422 last night, but the ebb and flow of subscriber count. So quick, I'm gonna save most of this. So today is the last day of the giveaway entry. So we're giving away Switch 2, some other junk on the table here. Today's the last day of the giveaway entry. I'm gonna wait till 6 p.m. tonight or something to take it down. I've learned a lot. Couple greatest hits about the giveaway. It's, as of right now, it hasn't achieved even close to what I hoped it would, and I'll break down all the numbers and everything like that next week. What we'll do is we'll take down the entry today, and then tomorrow I'll be tallying up all the entries, tallying up all the bonus entries, and doing all that stuff. So yeah, but I mean, just to be straight, it hasn't even come close. Basically, if we could have done 3 times what we did, I would have started to feel good about it in terms of the amount of people that entered, the amount of money that kind of generated off of it, so I could help pay for it a little bit. I mean, maybe money will be generated off of it still, and I'll just won't see that for a little while. Maybe something about doing the giveaway will manifest down the line, but the in the moment kind of hope of it did not even come close. Like, I lost a lot off of it. I lost a lot of money in terms of, for me, money. You know, it's like, it's not the worst thing, but it's definitely not the best. And one of the things I'm going to have to say to my audience is shipping might be delayed because I can't afford to just, there's a potential I won't be able to afford shipping everything at once. So I'll just ship it as I can. The smaller items will probably be easy to ship, but if I draw any international names, and especially for like heavy things, the switches and the keyboards, if I draw international names, it's gonna cost me like $100 to ship it. So we'll see what happens there. Luckily, most of the entries are domestic. And then the other thing, yesterday I woke up, I was so annoyed between the subscriber count issue yesterday morning and just the giveaway generally, but also specifically there's a bot, there's like somebody scraped my entry form and put a bot on it, and so it's hitting every like 10 minutes or a little bit longer, I think, because I'm not getting that many entries, but I'm getting these entries, and somebody hit a bot on the entry form, and so it's kind of like every time I open it up, I don't get this accurate accounting. I have to go through, delete all these fake entries, and yeah, so it's just annoying. And I even tried to, however they're doing it, either they're paying attention or it's set up to be automatic. Like the bot is looking for Google links or Google Forms or something. I don't know. However they set it up, because I've replaced the form multiple times and it still hits it right away. It like doesn't even really delay it. It's not like the link is broken so it doesn't work anymore. It hits it right away. So I'll talk way more about everything that happened through the giveaway, because by next Friday we should have completed the giveaway 100%. So we'll be able to do, next podcast will be like a really thorough breakdown of my experience doing this giveaway. But at this point, some of the greatest hits I just gave you. I mean, it was sort of fun. I mean, my audience really appreciates it, which is cool. And like I said last time, you really want to do a giveaway based on what your current audience is, not the potential. You don't want to do it based on what it could bring in. And I don't know. And every scenario is different, right? Some other channel could be almost at the same spot that I'm at with their view count and stuff, and they do something like this and it does blow up for them and a lot of people see it, but it did not work for me, like for whatever reason. I don't know, did not even bring in nearly enough new people. Not even close, which is a bummer. So there we go. The gamble was gambled, and now we know I had the money to do it, sort of. So it's done now. Was it worth it for the experience and the knowledge? Maybe. Yes, it was definitely worth it for my audience. Like, it's cool that the audience that I do have that was into it, I'm really thankful. It's really cool that I'm able to do something fun for them. And it's like good, it's not just like not a good thing. But all right, so that's the YouTube recap. That's where we're at. Still chugging away. We'll get there someday. So as of right now, we need 400 or 580 subscribers to get to 10,000. So we're doing it. 480. God, it would be cool if we could do it in the next like two weeks. I would love to hit it so that when my son is in town, we can do the 24-hour live stream celebration. We got the outside weather. Oh, speaking of the weather today, it's nice. It's actually like I don't need the fans on. It's not humid. It's like cool. It's like nice relief. So I'm actually like, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I'm actually like kind of chilled, you know. I have shorts on, I could wear socks. All right, one of the things that has come up this week is the labeling of a phenomenon called the Gen Z stare. And I saw it on TikTok and I was like, oh, I gotta engage with this. So if you've been following my platforms, you've been seeing me post little shorts, and it's been a fascinating kind of phenomenon to watch the discourse around this concept. So I'm going to define it so part of why I am engaged with it is because it's a phenomenon that I see in the classroom as well. It's not just a phenomenon outside. It's like we talk about it as colleagues, as professors, as people teaching. We're like, what is the deal with this generation of students? Obviously, we had the pandemic. There's like, obviously, it's like the more and more phones and tablets and technology are becoming a part of our world. You know, there are traceable factors of like how social interactions are becoming what they are, and that melting, and then other things that we'll talk about in a moment. But there are factors, and it's like, okay, but it's like noticeable. It is noticeable that there is this kind of like emptiness, this kind of zoned out emptiness with a lot of these students. And you know, the school that I'm teaching at is like, these students are paying to be there. So it's not just like because of certain, so no matter what the demographic, potentially where they came from, essentially, it's affecting all demographics of Gen Z. It's not just, oh, it's because they're from this or that. It's like, okay, this is affecting the whole Generation Z, and it's interesting phenomenon. So, and when it started getting described, I was like, oh, that's part of what could be described as what I see in the classroom. And so kind of the definition. So what it is for me is like this lack of kind of engaging with like historically socially accepted kind of way of being. You know, when you're working a retail job and you're the person taking the order, you greet the person and say, hey, welcome to whatever, how are you doing, what's going, you know, it's like you sit, but you know, there's just kind of it's like you just wait, they just kind of like dead-eyed stare at them and don't actually engage, you know. And in the classroom it's the same way. There's just this dead-eyed kind of slack jaw, like not even trying to look at and not even showing any indication that anything is getting in there. You know, it's like, and I use where it's really, when I've talked about this before, where it's really becomes like apparent is when there's international students in my classroom. Like the international students seem to act the way you'd expect. They look at you when you're teaching your lessons. They nod occasionally. They smile if you say something remotely funny. They like, there's this actual kind of, you know, social agreement, you know, happening. There's like, okay, whether or not you want to be there, you act like you understand the assignment. You know, you act like, you know, the assignment in terms of the way we say that now in slang. You know, it just so happens I'm also in a classroom. But, you know, it's like they understood the assignment. They came to the room. They acted like what you'd expect a student to act like. But now there's so many American students that just don't even give you the time of day for whatever reason. They just look like they don't want to be there. They don't engage with the space. They don't look like they're actively listening, actively trying to learn. They just are just blank. There's dead-eyed. And so when this Gen Z stare thing came up on the internet, I'm like, yes. Like, I know what's happening. So it's been fun to watch this discourse online, because we're still in it. If you jump on TikTok or mostly TikTok probably, But if you jump on TikTok and say, type in Gen Z stare, you'll see a bunch of responses to it. And so I'm going to try to hit some of the greatest hits of what I've seen since. The first reaction is from Gen Z themselves. Or one of the main reactions is, and most of what I have to say does relate to how Gen Z is responding to this, to them being made aware of this is what you're doing. It's not every person in Gen Z, but it's enough that because I've had it happen to me there's a Subway down the street from my house, and the way this person was interacting with me was like, what the fuck? It's like, anyways, and then of course in the classroom. So one of the main Gen Z misinterpreted it. First off, Gen Z's like, yeah, of course, if somebody says something stupid to me, we're going to look at you dead eye. We're going to look at you. So what Gen Z thought was the Gen Z stare was that side eye, the term side eye they use, like where you kind of look at somebody like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, you're in customer service, somebody's being rude to you, and they're like, what? Giving you the side eye. That's not it. Like it's not the side eye. It's like slack jaw, dead eye. It's a total different. It's like this lack of engagement. So that was the first thing. Gen Z just totally there's a portion of Gen Z that lacks self-awareness so much that they don't even know what we're talking about. So we had to, what has happened from that though, because once they've been made aware, and like nobody likes to be told they're less than, right? And this is basically a moment of being told they're less than, because they're like not engaging with societal norms that we've established up to this point. Not to say societal norms can't change, but it's just like, I think societal norms can be tied into a lot of oppressive conditions, and that's fine. That's not fine, but there are times where societal norms are just being actually, showing that you care. There's ways societal norms show that you actually want to participate in society in a functioning way. And this is sort of the lack of that, participating in society in a functional way. So of course, there's this faction of Gen Z that now that they've been made aware of it, they say things like, oh, we're doing that on purpose just to piss you off or something like that. And it's like, and if that's the case, that's the worst. Like, you want to intentionally disrupt society just out of spite or just because you can, that is terrible. That is base. That is so worst of the worst of the worst. So it reminds me, and then there's and it kind of reminds me of how MAGA interacts with society. They lack just awareness of social kind of interactions. They lack the awareness of how their choices are affecting society. And that's one thing, which is totally possible. So they need to be, and that's where, when we talk about the lack of sort of education, they lack the education, or they know what they're doing and they're just being despicable human beings. So there's this parallel to what is happening in the MAGA world with how Gen Z is reacting to this Gen Z stare idea. So like, since I've been following it a little bit too, it's like, where is this coming from a little bit? There's two main things that I feel like is truth. One is a metaphysical thing that I feel, and one is like that makes sense thing, and I'll talk about it in a sec. So the metaphysical kind of, this is what I feel is happening and why the Gen Z stare is a thing, because I think we've got to the point in Western society in America that basically capitalism and the system has stolen all desire for ambition, stolen all desire for actually doing things, like figuring it out and working hard. Because that's part of this understanding social norms, is learning and working hard and figuring out situations so that you can get ahead, so you can gain things. But because there's the opportunities for Gen Z to have a sustainable life, they have, even now I'm Gen X, it's really difficult to only have one job, depending on when you started, like the pathway. So they're just, the lack of, they know it's, whether they know it consciously, but I believe there's a, 100th monkey effect of society has gotten to the point where we're starting to give up in some ways. There's just this, we just don't give a fuck anymore. And that's what I think. It's like this manifestation of the, we don't give a fuck and it doesn't matter. We're not even going to try, whether or not they understand it or not. But I just feel like that plays a factor. And I think they don't recognize, I think most of us don't recognize it, because it's like, the opportunities aren't there anymore, because the 1% and the system of capitalism have just raped our society from all its, joy. We have, and that's where we are right now. So I believe there's a factor there. The other factor that came up is these generations are being raised on technology. And technology, when you look at it, when you use it, when you use tablets and iPhones and phones and all those things, and you get some information from it, there's no need to respond back to it. You're not trained by the person by the deliverer of the information on how to respond to that delivery of information. You get all your information, so you don't need to let the person on the screen know you understand by nodding, by being present to it. You can put your headphones on, you can put it to the side, you could be doing something else, you could be listening, you're not paying attention to that thing. The way we're interacting with technology, then once we're in a space where we have to interact with a human being, we never learned how to interact socially. We've never learned those appropriate interactions socially. And so I think that's a factor. That's part of it. Okay, one last thing about this concept of the Gen Z stare is this idea, how it fits into this other idea, or should fit into this other idea of code switching, or, what's the other thing? Masking, right? As I said earlier, if Gen Z is deliberately deciding not to mask or not code switch in appropriate environments, then I'm like, that sucks. But what it is, and code switching and masking are not negative things. Sometimes they can manifest into a negative reality because you're hiding true intentions in a bad way, or you're affecting your own ability. But, a lot of neurodivergent people have to mask their way because they want to function. They need to actually operate in society. It's the same kind of concept. Right now, Gen Z, there's a section of Gen Z that's either incapable of or just doesn't understand that it's appropriate to code switch or mask in certain environments. And my students are no exception to this. There's a lot of students that don't understand there's a code to the environment. And you switch to that code of looking like you want to be there and learn and help your professor understand that you are taking in the information. But right now there's, like I said, either a deliberate choice not to try to code switch or mask in certain environments, or there's just the lack of, because of, like I said, technology, people haven't learned that it's appropriate to code switch or mask in certain environments. What I've been thinking about, though, is, so what's the solution, right? The long-term solution is hopefully we start to understand, so I heard somebody say something about more regulation, like when we recognize that, well, if we get our policymakers back to a place that I actually want to help society instead of just abuse it. If we get policymakers back to the space of helping society, there'll probably be there should be regulation around devices because it's making us dumb, it potentially. And technology, there should be regulation around technology more, which is fine. Regulation is not a bad thing, which there's a big selection of our society has decided because of capitalism. It's like, no, regulation keeps us safe, keeps us functioning. Anyways, so there's that aspect of it. And maybe more people will just recognize they gotta, I don't know, but then also the solution. What is the solution for Gen Z? For these kids, these young people that don't recognize they're not functioning in society well, and part of it was, probably because of the pandemic played a factor. There's still that pre and post pandemic, because Gen Z was like right there, right? Some of them were ahead of it a little bit, and some of them were smack dab right in the middle of the pandemic when their formative kind of high school years and stuff, and not socializing with as many people. So that was a factor. But what do you do now? And how can you? I mean, I suppose you can retrain yourself to understand, but it's like there's this cognitive dissonance as well, that there's this element of, do they even once they learn there is a social interaction, will they be able to recognize it when they're in the moment of it? It's kind of like, I hope so. I don't know, it's interesting. The Gen Z stare phenomenon and what's happened is interesting, and it's kind of like, it's worrisome, honestly. It is. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's what I'm thinking about right now is that movie Idiocracy. It's like we are in a collision course toward idiocracy in more ways than one. It's crazy. All right, so that's what I got for the Gen Z stare. And if I think of anything else to add into it. But it's just been really interesting to watch the social discourse around this. And yeah, wow. It's really cool. Interesting. Okay, so next up, Deja Fox. Are you familiar with Deja Fox? She got some national recognition. She's ran for elected official, I think House of Representative out of Arizona. And she popped on my radar through social media. And, whenever I see like progressives and young people getting involved, I'm always like rooting for them. And then I learned more about the situation in Arizona, where there was actually two progressives on the ballot. What of them was a legacy candidate because her father was the previous person in like a elected official. I don't remember I don't remember all the details of it. Or no, I didn't research it that deeply. But so it was interesting because there's this idea right now, and I fell sort of prey to it, where it's like, if you see a young progressive candidate, you assume they're the only one. If there's a slightly older candidate, you don't give them the benefit of the doubt of being progressive as well. And so there were two progressive candidates on the ballot in the primary, but Deja got like national recognition because of her social media presence. So I got to see more of it, and I'm really excited to follow her career. But my response to what is happening is what I've been seeing. A lot of people are complaining that she didn't talk enough about policy, and they feel like that might have been part of why she didn't win. I think the gap was big enough that most voters already decided. There wasn't going to be, maybe she got more voters out, which is great. We want to get more voters out. But I think most voters had already decided. So she was kind of running an uphill battle. But she also managed to do what I did hear her say recently, just like yesterday. Her campaign was 100 days long. She entered the race kind of late. Her campaign was 100 days long. And she did so much within those 100 days that is pretty impressive. So the bottom line for me is like, watch Deja Fox. Like, see what happens. The one thing I'm disappointed in, though, is when I do watch her, listen to her talk, she has that, she's starting, you can tell she's 25 years old, and you can tell she doesn't have the wisdom, and age isn't providing her with her candor, in a sense, with her pacing of how she talks. She's modeling still. She's taking a way of doing something. This is my interpretation of what I'm seeing. When she's talking publicly, you can tell she's trying to figure out the way a politician should talk, because it feels too staged. And I'm like, you're fucking Gen Z. Why are you talking like that? There's a way to talk you are sounding like an establishment politician. And I know there are ways, I don't expect slang or anything. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about find your voice as your generation. Find your way to speak to the public. Don't put on and this is what it feels like to me. When I listen to her talk, I'm like, you sound like everyone else that's trying to sound like a politician. And it turned me off. I was like, God damn it. I just want to hear you sound authentic. You don't sound authentic. You sound like you're trying to figure out what the way people want you to would sound like as a politician, with that kind of paused voice talking. I was raised in a single family household, and I know firsthand what it's like to. It was like that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. I was starting to get just my inspiration. And the last interview I saw she was on with Caitlin Collins was when she was breaking down some of that pre-scripted way of speaking. And because I think she let her guard down a little, because she knew she was done. She knew she was out of the race. And I was like, okay, that's the voice. That's the voice. That willingness to kind of, I don't know, for me, I want my politicians to have humanity in them and not feel like a robot. That's one of the things I was really disappointed with the Harris campaign. I mean, I don't know, I guess nowadays with social, every year I get more and more focused on the candidates, and I'm listening to them more often, so I hear them say the same things more often. So that's part of it, is just like that stump speech. Most of the time when you hear a candidate talking, they're saying the same thing because they want to keep their messaging consistent. And so eventually it gets kind of repetitive and robotic and boring to listen to. But that was when the first major national interview with Harris, I understand she had to give her stump speech, but it was just like, oh my God, can you talk like a human being, please? But anyways, that was, so that's what I noticed. So it'll be interesting. I hope Deja Fox gets inspired to keep going. We'll see at the midterms if what she decides to do, if she decides to run in a different district or whatever it might be. But we'll see what happens. But I think now that she has some national name recognition, she should not give up and keep going. And she's only 25. Just what? She's got the rest of her life to make some change. So let's make it happen. And then the biggest complaint, like I said earlier, was not enough people heard her speak on her actual policy, which I think she should work on as well. I think she tied it into the way she talked in a way that wasn't direct enough. And again, I'm not in Arizona, so I'm not following it that closely, but I saw what I saw online, and she did get national attention on the sort of what's left of mainstream media still. So interesting. All right, next up, I have one of the things that comes up often is conservative people will project the concept that the Democrats and the left side of politics is the hateful side of politics. And I'm like, where do they get that? Where does that come from? Why do they think that? Because, I mean, the right side of politics is the side of politics that aligns with oppression, with bigotry, with homophobia, with transphobia, with racism. All the worst isms in our society are what the right side of politics is their platform. So how is it that the left side of politics is the hateful group? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I mean, I do understand it because they lack self-awareness, and they want to be hateful, and they think that providing equity and doing good things for your neighbor is being hateful because they associated it with terms like socialism or terms like those kind of things. It's like supporting our society they think is stealing money from you through your taxes. Like, no, that's why you're paying taxes for, is to help society. And our society decides on what we use that money for. And some people need help. So your money you pay in taxes helps somebody else. They're not freeloading. They're just need help. You know, I don't know. And I don't know, just like, it just boggles my mind that the right side of politics says the left side of politics is the hateful group. And it's like, how do you come to that? How do you navigate your thought process to make that solution, to make that that math add up? Because it don't add up. It doesn't add up. I like saying it like left side of politics versus right side of politics, because I really hate the labels of Democrat and Republican. Because it's like, because I do. I mean, right now there's like, and that's the other thing, you know, the Democratic committee, the DNC in a sense, is like sort of centrist itself. Or centrist to the right. It's not left. Like the fact that they take AIPAC money, the fact that they insider trade, the fact that there's so many things that the establishment Democratic Party does that's just disgusting. You know, and the unwillingness to self-reflect and move beyond it just boggles my mind. So hopefully, and so when people on the right go Democrats, or it's like, no, they're more like you than you think. You know, it's the left of that. It's the progressives that are the ones that are actually going to help the society. So if you're like so opposed to voting for a Democrat because you hear the word Democrat versus Republican, there's a subsection of who runs under the Democratic Party, but half of the people that you think are evil are actually way closer to your philosophy than you even realize. which is another, you know, social, you know, kind of joke that the powers that be are playing on all of us. It's like, you know, it's like the more you listen to it, the more frustrating it gets to hear that you know, the Democrats had so many opportunities to actually do things to prevent what we're in right now, but they just didn't, because they wanted to use it as a carrot to keep people voting for them instead of actually doing things. Anyways, or at least the optics of it looked that way. Artwork. Let's get into the artwork. This will be my transition phase. I don't know where this came from or why I wrote it down. I should have probably put more details, but it's the phrase, the little quote I wrote down all by itself is worth saying. The act of making is more important than the color or the shape, etc., or anything else. Just to think about that concept. The act of making is more important than the color or the shape, like the line, anything you're doing, like the technique. The act of making is more important than the technique. I think that, I don't know what inspired me to say that. Maybe it's because I started putting color into my work, so I started thinking about something. But just that concept of the act of making is more important than the color or the technique or the shape. It's come up. There's definitely, there's always, I'm kind of in my circle of influence right now. I'm getting a lot of other, I hear a lot of other creatives talk about things on social networks and stuff, and it's just been interesting. The act of making is more important than the color or the shape. All right, so what we got, this is the fun thing that talk about, the super fun part. I'm gonna put on the screen a photo. Right now it's washed out in the background, but you can kind of see what's happening. So on the screen, let's break it down. So I'm done. I'm basically done. I'm like so close to being done with the mural that I'm essentially done. I mean, let's put it this way. If I keeled over tomorrow and I couldn't do anything left more with it, I'd be happy that people saw it at the state it's at. It would not bother me whatsoever if people saw it at the state it's at. A couple things I know I want to do. A couple of things I know. The first thing that's definitely going to happen is I'm going to trim off the top and bottom so it's clean. There's not that little extra white. And those were mainly there just so I could tack it to the wall and not push holes in the rest of it. There are a few little pinholes in a couple spots, but I started to use a technique where I would pin just outside of the paper and like squeeze it to the wall. So there's, there are a few pinholes, but I'll be trimming that up. I'm planning to get some alligator clips, I think they're called, or binder clip, or what do they call them? Yeah, I don't know, clips, those silver metal clips, get some of those to hang from it. The piece itself will be the point of it. I think I've mentioned this before. I made it for the faculty exhibition at RIT. That was why I made it. I was like, okay, there's going to be this exhibition. I'll have a chance to share some work. Let's make some brand new work for it, in a sense. And that was a big motivation for it. It was also just like, I need to make a piece of work through the summer. Didn't really know how long it would take. I think I managed to finish it a little bit sooner than I thought. We're ahead like a week. We managed to finish it about a week before I needed to, which is great. Almost 2 weeks before I needed to. Obviously, there's still something. I'll leave it hanging on the wall until, I think maybe today I'll take it down and trim it, and then I'll hang it back up. But I'll leave it on the wall. A couple of things. So let me break down kind of the final pieces that I did. So in the text, I'll just point at in the background. So the color on top was interesting. I'm happy with the way it looks right now. Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I'd say, out of everything on this piece, that's the biggest point of like learning of an evolution for me, because obviously I don't work with color a lot. So it's like, okay, how do when I was making it, it was hot in here, and it was a rare time where I was worried about the ugly phase, because it definitely had an ugly phase. Like when I'm drawing faces now, I've gotten to a technique where it really, the ugly phase, it doesn't bother me, and I get through it really fast because I know what's happening. So it's the ugly phase doesn't happen as much for me, or it doesn't affect me the same way where it used to. Like I remember when I first started doing some of my live stream drawings, and I'd be in the ugly phase and I'd be sweating because I would be like, if somebody came and watched it in that moment, they'd be like, this guy's trash. Because they'd have to wait another half hour before they actually saw it come to fruition. So the similar effect was happening for me. Is like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing. I used gouache. I just had a bunch of gouache already. I didn't want to spend any more money. So I had all the colors I needed, and I mixed a couple colors to create what I needed. But I was like, okay, I'll just use this gouache. It's similar to the ink, so it'll have the same sort of consistency. It kind of like makes sense. You know, it's not a completely different medium. It's not like acrylic paint or something. It's like, it's just gouache, right? So I was using that. It's kind of like watercolor. It's like halfway between watercolor and acrylic. It's like this kind of thick watercolor stuff. So I started using that, and I just started blocking in all the colors. And I was like, okay, how am I gonna blend this? How is this gonna look good? Because it was like, I wasn't, I didn't have the patience to sit there and be really precise with matching up borders and stuff. And so I got it all kind of in there, and then I just like, screw it. I just like, part of my brain was just like, I just got to attack. That's basically what I was telling myself the whole time, was just attack it. Just attack, 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 attack. So I was like, okay, attack. So I just went in, once I got it all kind of blocked in, I went in with just this kind of concept of like, I want to put folds in it. So I just went in with some dark, like my rag, and just put some where I thought maybe the shadow of the fold. And then I went in with some white and just kind of went in. And it took me a few rounds to kind of find that started to help it blend. And I noticed, I was like, okay. And then I went back with some of the gouache and kind of fixed things. And I just kind of attacked, basically. I didn't really think too hard. I was just like, and just trying to like go, just reacting, just happening. And eventually, once I started to get those lines in and that kind of stuff, and the white and the gray on top of the color, then it started to feel like, okay, this is feeling good. And then I went back with the gouache and kind of went really dark, like really like not very diluted, just almost straight from the tube, but not quite, because you need a little bit of water to help it spread. But I went back and put in some highlights or kind of highlights. I'll just call them highlights. So I put in some details of the darker tones, or tones of the color, and I'm pretty happy. I'm like, it's not perfect, and I don't care. Embrace the mistake, as I say. But I learned a lot about it. I don't know when I'm gonna have another up. Like, I basically need to do with the flags what I've done with faces. Like, if I just force myself to draw the flags like 100 times at some point, that's what I need to do. I just need to sit down and just draw the flags and draw folding material, wavy material 100 times, and then I'll be like, okay, next time I want to do this, I know exactly what I need to do. I'm not even close to that, but it came out good enough. It came out good enough. So but it looks like, especially when you stand back from it, it looks it really does look exactly like I envisioned it would look, and the impact of it, it's like, it feels like I'm just so excited to share this with more people. Obviously, I wish social media would pick it up. I wish when I shared it on social media, people were like, holy fuck, what am I looking at? This is insane. Because I'm that proud of it. I'm like, so one of the things that I know I've mentioned this before, I must have mentioned this before because I've been thinking about it so often. The way that I feel about my artwork is the way that I interpret hip hop artists feel about their careers and their music. A hip hop artist, there's this one side of creativity, like you're supposed to be humble and let the audience decide whether you're good or not. But a hip hop says, no, I'm badass. They say it. A hip hop artist says, I'm the best, and it. I'm the best. That's the way I feel. I feel like hip hop. My artwork, even though there is elements of graffiti and stuff, there is a lineage to hip hop, actual hip hop. But I'm just talking about like the mentality of hip hop is the way that I feel about my art. It's like, I know it's badass. And I'm not afraid to say it. So a couple other things about what I did. I put some writing between some of the, since last week, I put all the writing on here. I don't think you saw any of it. I think you just saw the silver leaf, but then on the bottom section here, it says to stand in community is to stand in defiance of the oppressor. We have in between that, there's some extra writing. I just put like, Community is the protest. Community is the revolution. Community is power. I put some voting things on the bottom. Below it, there's a little flag I got from the No Kings protest when I was walking around. I took that off and glued it on. It was on a stick. I took it off the stick and just glued it on there. So there's a little mix, like a collaging or whatever, kind of found object kind of aspect to it. Underneath that flag, I wrote No Kings. Underneath that, there's a section of writing I wrote to my students. I wrote a letter to them. I'll read it here. It says, "Dear RIT students, I made this for you to inspire you to get bigger, bolder, and more passionate, to stand up and stand on business. You have the most powerful voice. You can move mountains. Find your voice. Have something to say. Say it. Have something to say. Say it loud. I'm here to help you find your voice and use it. And how to use it. So, rewind. I'm here to help you find your voice and how to use it. I will do everything in my power to support you." And then I signed it Zim. And then I have my little saying, if you don't stand for the oppressed, you stand for nothing. I dedicated this whole thing to my kids. Wrote a couple things on there. And then across above where it says stand up and get louder, there's a strip of black. And I wrote in the strip of black, it says, "America is, concentration camps, ICE agents terrorizing immigrants, discriminating trans people," and then ... "What are you going to do about it?" And then sort of stand up and get louder is sort of the answer to that. But it's also like, I'm just trying, I want to ask, because like for me, this piece is a direct response to my experience last year. This piece is a direct response to 2025. And before, but definitely 2025. 2020, this piece is a direct response to 2025. From my teaching experience, from the political experience, from community, like what's happening in my life. It's just like a direct response. And some of what I've seen in my community, in my world, is the lack of response, the lack of action. And I'm like, I'm talking directly to my communities, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are we not doing more? Why are you not talking more? Why are you not getting louder about what's going on? You're just pretending like it's business as usual or whatever. It just blew my mind last year walking around campus how little there was acknowledgement of of this existential shit that we're involved in right now. And it should be the place we should be talking about it the most. These are institutions of thought, and an art school at that. Just crazy. So, and I'm sure I mentioned this before, but it is, the scale of it is a representation of that, what you just heard me do, like yelling. It's a representation of me yelling, going, come on, And so, and I'm just like just talking about it right now. It's like, I've been on this, like you could hear it in my voice now. I've been on I'm on the edge of crying all the time when I think about what's happening in our society and the lack of care and the amount of cruelty that we're displaying toward each other. It's so frustrating. Yesterday when I was working on it and doing, somebody asked me a question on stream, like, why do you do what you do? Why do you make the art you make? And it's just like, I just can't sit on the sidelines. And when I was saying that to them, I just had a moment like that. My back was turned to the camera and stuff, so they didn't know it, but I was just like crying. I had a moment where I had to little breathe, like that moment of when you cry about something sometimes. And I just paused, recollected myself, and went on to. But if I think about it too much, too bad I'm not an actor, because all I got to do is think about, this cruelty we're displaying to each other, and I'll just start It's frustrating. So, but I'm really, really, really stoked on the piece. Last night I've been making edits on and sharing them on shorts on my TikTok and YouTube. And I just watch it. Like last night I watched this one edit I made, like, I don't know, 50 times. It just was on loop. And I was just like, this looks so cool. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. And so what I still, like I said, I got to trim the top and bottom. There's a couple things I have it, like I'll probably add in some more text here and there. I want to put this Hello Kitty or just Goodbye Kitty logo thing that I'm kind of becoming part of my brand now. I want to put that in there somewhere. It's like, honestly, I don't think I'll be doing any more like touch up in terms of like adding any ink to anything. I think the ink is done. The last thing I did was touched up some of the silver leaf. And I think it's fine. I mean, there's blemishes all over it. It's not perfect. There's drips on things. It's like, I mean, define perfect, right? It's perfect for me, but there is, I could go in and tweak it, but it's fine. It's great. So the other thing I need to do is, I've been thinking about, so it's on paper, maybe down the line, I'll laminate it to like wood or something. Like, let's just say somebody saw it and they're like, we want that hanging in our gallery. We want that hanging in our museum. We want that hanging in our space. I might say, okay, let's laminate it to some wood. Let's like glue the paper down to some wood, and then it'll be easier to hang, and like maybe something like that. But since it's just paper right now, it curls on the sides, and I don't want the connections between the papers to curl too much when it's hanging. So what I'm thinking of doing is, I don't know, I have to figure out some system that it kind of pinches them together or pinches them to the wall. Like there's a potential they could just be like use that magnet technique where they put magnets on it and it just holds it to the wall. That'll keep it kind of, and then or I was thinking of getting like magnets and putting them between the joints, and then the magnets will like hold it. Or I could do something, I don't know. It would be nice. I just want to figure out something where it kind of, especially the two seams that are inside of it. The outer ones don't worry so much because it's curling in, like you're seeing it. But when the two pages curl away from each other, I don't want them to create more of a gap too much. So I want to figure out a way to keep it kind of flat. Yeah, that's the goal there. And the other thing I wanted to mention about it is, is it my favorite piece? When I think about it, I still feel like the last piece I did is still my favorite piece that I've ever done. There's a similarity in, I don't know, something about that trans pride flag one I made, the 50 portraits. That feels like it's still number one in my list of favorite pieces. But this is either 1A, 1B, or 2, I think, in a lot of ways. This could be, because it's just like, it's a recency bias for sure. No question about it. It's something different. I haven't done something quite like this. I mean, I did some mural-ish type pieces back when I was in graduate school, but this is the evolution, right? This is like, because of all the work I've done between then and now, created this. And then like the other piece that you normally see behind me, I did that piece and that informed this piece. It's like, so, yeah. It's the evolution. So, in a year, hopefully I'll have 2 more pieces that I'm more excited about and think are my favorite pieces. So it's a little bit recency bias, but just the scale of it, the kind of accumulation, what's the word? Like the accumulation of my knowledge and my practice manifesting in this moment. It's like, okay, this could not have happened if I hadn't made as much work and been involved and been doing as much with my practice. Like, there's no way this piece could exist without what I've been doing up to this point. And so I'm really happy about that. It's just like, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's pretty big. I want to hear what when other people see it, they'll be like, if they react to it as large, or if they react to it as like how they'll react to the scale. I'm really excited. I really want to see it in a space where I can walk back from it, like get like 100 feet away from it. Right now the farthest I can get from it is 12 feet. I can't get farther away from it. So I'm really excited to see what that feels like to be farther away from it. And then the little American flag on the bottom just looks, it's just so, I feel like it's pretty well balanced. I feel like the balance, the composition of it is pretty well. It's interesting. Like, for me, it's personal, right? And you want to make work that's personal. Like, everything about this is very personal to me. There's obviously elements that expand beyond it, but it's like, why would I? The conversation, I hope people can kind of connect or whatever, is when they look at it going like, why are there game avatars and people and politicians? Like, when they question, like, why are these images together? Hopefully they'll be led well enough there with the community idea and understanding, like, that's my online community. That's my online community. That's the representation of even you listening to this podcast. Even though you didn't send in an avatar, it's like, you are part of my community. You are part of my online community. And that's part of that representation, And so hopefully it like makes sense, because there's an element you could look at it and that could feel super out of place. That whole aspect of it could be like, this would be much better if that wasn't there, because it would fill a narrative for somebody else easier. But because that is there, it's telling my story specifically, because it does. You could look at it and go like, that feels like it's out of place, but because it's about me and my story, it's perfect. So we'll just see how people react. And the other part of it is, like, I think it actually works well for RIT, because RIT is such a technology-based campus, and there's so many game design things that there'll be a lot of people that recognize it, and it might draw more people in the environment that it's designed to be displayed. Like, students might go like, what is going, it might create the curiosity. I don't know. I'm really, really, really excited to see how people react to it in the real world and when they see it. Because it's just like, to me, it's like, and I got one response yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody on YouTube responded to one of my shorts. Beautiful in so many ways. The emotion this provokes. The way it makes you want to stand next to your brother and sister side by side and draw strength from one another. So it's like, man, that makes me feel so good that somebody sees it like that. And the name of it, I said this last week, I think, it's Canon Event 2025 is what I'm calling it. It's kind of like, if you're not familiar with the idea of Canon Event, it's kind of like specifically from Into the Spider-Verse, or Across the Spider-Verse. They're talking about the Spider-Man and the fact that certain events need to happen. It's like their canon of their life need to happen. And this is like 2025 canon event, politics, teaching, game streaming. It's my canon, like 20, so that's the kind of concept behind it. So, and this reminds me, and if you all made it this far in the podcast, thank you so much. We did get, last week was by far the most interaction on the podcast I've ever had. We had multiple people comment on the podcast, the actual video on YouTube. which was awesome. Thanks so much. Hopefully we can continue that to grow. I would love the podcast to find a much larger audience, obviously, and they want to explore this adventure that I'm on. So let's see if we can make that happen. We are basically an hour into this podcast. So I think we wrapped up everything we needed to say today. I don't think there's anything else left to talk about. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks again, my friends. As always, be loving, kind, and patient. And we'll see you next week with a giveaway complete recap. That'll be the bulk of next week's podcast. We'll really be talking about the giveaway probably. I mean, who knows? We have a whole week till then. The world, a lot happens. Every week feels like a year this year. So we'll see how it goes. All right, my friends. As always, be loving, kind, and patient. We'll talk to you later. Bye.